candidates. Today we have Gabriel Forestieri with us. Gabriel has his BFA in drama from Carnegie Mellon and his MFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts from NYU. He is a teacher, a performer, an artist working in an energetic and anatomic way, as he describes himself. His foundational ideas take questions into pedagogy, and not necessarily to create answers, but to formulate an idea of personal movement desire, and to teach the questions that he has for himself to kind of create a foundational artistic life for the students he encounters. He feels as though class is a fundamental way of sharing his ideas and his inquiries with students, and that class is a place, or a container rather, of our history and our future. And he enters into a dialogue with those questions with students as a way to transmit and exchange the ideas and experiences that he's had as an artist and educator. He's been on the faculty of many summer intensives, such as Earth Dance. He has created many kind of movement intensive experiences through movement research. His company or organization that he works from is called Project Limb. He's been welcomed at different residencies as in universities like New York University, Marymount Manhattan, again, movement research, Hunter College, and Howard University. So please help me in welcoming today Gabriel Forestieri.
Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. Seeing is forgetting the name. Seeing forgetting the name.
that story. It's sort of like that. Okay, so I guess how I'll start is I'm going to start in northern Michigan. I am about 8 years old, and I'm on a canoe trip. And they left me on this island by myself for about 6 hours. That's the first time in my life that I was that age that I was really alone, completely alone, on my own island. And that experience was so accepting. I had traumatic experiences growing up, I'm sure everyone does. And a lot of judgment and pain and stuff. So the experience of that acceptance was really powerful for me. And it was something about the world that wasn't judging me. At that time, or for a long time, I thought it was something about wilderness. That it needed to be wilderness to feel that kind of non-judgment. It's definitely easier in that kind of space. There's so much green around to just... I think I felt connected to it somehow. Even though I didn't have any real understanding of that, it was an emotional thing. But from that grew a sort of love of being in wilderness, and also a love of being physical in wilderness. You know, hiking, canoeing, kayaking, whatever, backpacking. Just the physical nature of having to carry everything you are going to need on your back is like a way of being physical. And I then, of course, became interested in environmental stuff, because if you're out there, you know, you want to preserve it. So I worked for like Virgin and did canvassing and stuff like that, which was pretty disillusioning, actually, experience. And then I, after college, I started dancing actually in high school, which I got into through martial arts, and then theater kind of led me into dance. And then I realized I wanted to do dance, not theater, kind of in the middle of college. There's something about truth. You know, when you're acting, you have to learn lines, and you say all this stuff. And for me, it's just this thing about lying. And I in a naive way, I thought that if I didn't open my mouth, then I didn't have to lie. But I realized that there's all kinds of lying that we have to deal with. And so anyways, I went to a program called AmeriCorps, and I turned a parking lot back into a salt marsh, which was another really powerful experience of transformation, of real, physical, actual transformation. And I did environmental restoration in California for about 5 years, and that whole time I was kind of like split between dancing part-time and working in wilderness part-time, and this beat frequency started to grow up, where it was like, okay, well, why can't I bring these things together? They seem so connected, but I don't understand how to bring them together. And so the way I started doing it was kind of discussing them in the theater. Did a whole bunch of pieces that were like kind of political, sort of. I mean, not sort of, they were political in the sense that they were about issues, you know, like water or biotechnology. I even wrote to Bill McKibben, actually, about my biotech piece. He was like, good job. I'm not calling it a good job. But at the same time, it was always my opinion. You know? It was still my opinion. Like, whatever work I was making, whatever ideas, and I would try really hard. Like, I would do all this stuff where I would interview people, asking them questions, and then I would have my musician like mix it so that at the end, when they watch the piece, they have their own answers about the issues played back to them after having watched, as a way of just saying, I'm including your thoughts, or like, what do you think about your thoughts now after seeing this, or just how can we have a dialogue and have talkbacks, and it was like, how can I get someone else's opinion in here besides just mine? But then even the content started to feel like it just didn't matter. It was still my choice. It was still about me. And then I started to go outside. I started to dance outside. It seems like duh. But it's not so easy. It's not so easy to get outside. You know, it's just right there, but it's not so easy. We're so trained. Everything we do is inside in a studio. Dance is just like art. It's the ghetto, you know? You got the place you do it, and that's where it lives, and that's where it's supposed to live. There's nothing wrong with that place. But it's like, you know, it can encounter the world. And it doesn't have to, but I found something really powerful in doing that. And when I started to do that, I realized quickly that if I was just doing the same thing I was doing in the theater or in the studio as I was doing outside, then I had a problem. Because then it's just a backdrop. You know, you see lots of stuff outside, and it's like, they're just installing something in the space. They're not really there in any actual way. Or that's my opinion. Even I just saw this piece at Lincoln Center last summer. And the program was like, site-specific master, he said his name, I'm not gonna say his name. And then he did the whole piece, and then the last half an hour of it, I swear to God, last time he built a stage in the space for the last half hour of it. And I was like, what? So, you know, it's like that. It's like, it's still the same thought. And then to me that was like, well, what's the point? So I realized, okay, so I want to be outside, I want to be with the world, I got to figure out how I'm going to include the world in the dancing. Otherwise there's no sense to it in my thinking. So I started working on this technique, which I now am naming worlding, which actually is a thing Heidegger wrote about, the worlds, which I like. I like this idea of worlding. I didn't really necessarily get it from him, although, you know, it was in my mind, I'm sure. Because the whole thing was I realized that it's a lot about naming. That the second you name, then you create a distance between yourself and whatever it is you're working with, some kind of distance. And you put it in a category, you don't interact with it. Not completely. And of course the work with Deborah Hay. It's also inspiring, for sure, in that process. But I have a definition now. Are you ready? Fully inhabiting body and space. That's the first thing. If you're not in your body and you're not in the space, you're just not there. And that means your whole body. It doesn't just mean your brain, or like the little tire of your brain we think of as our brain, which is actually not our whole brain, because we got 4 of them anyway. So. And space. Got to be in the room, or in the field, or wherever it is, even if, you know. So, fully inhabiting body and space, while constantly refreshing all relationships. So this is the part that's about, you have to just keep investing. What is the relationship? What is the relationship? My whole body and space, what is the relationship? Without naming any aspect of experience. So the second you name it, it's memory. It's kind of a memory. I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and he was talking about something that was so beautiful. He was saying that when we see something that's beautiful, or inspires beauty, there's a moment, usually there's 2 moments. Usually they're so close to each other we don't realize the difference. The first one is when you just open and receive it. That's the beauty part. And then you name it, and then it becomes memory. And that's so beautiful. But it's so fast. Gotta catch it. So, yeah. And then the last part gets a little boo, but as a means to share identity. So the whole thing is fully inhabiting body and space, while constantly refreshing all relationships, without naming any aspect of experience, as a means to share identity. So the identity part. actually, that part goes back to when I was in college and I was reading all these eco-psychology books, which was fascinating to me. And this guy was talking about how love is actually a shared identity. And I thought, right, that makes sense. And then I thought, okay, well, how do we get to shared identity with something other than humans? And this was the way for me, was this practice. Because in the refreshing of the relationship, without the naming, in that space where we, whatever it is that all the things that I'm working with, all the beings and structures, whatever, in that moment when I don't name, I share. And that's where the identity comes in. It's not that I become the curtain, no. But I share, I spread my awareness, attention, focus without naming what the other thing is. And so I'm constantly investigating the relationship. And in that, I share identity. Took me a while to get to that definition. Because at first it was just a feeling. You know, all things are like that. You have an experience of something and you want to repeat it. And then you try to teach it. But the whole thing is about not naming, so how do you name it? You know, we're going to do this outdoor practice. What? So I really resisted naming it. But then, it's good to have that. And I love the worlding because there's a double sense to it. I'm worlding, but the world is worlding me. It's not just my action on, it's not just me acting. It's the participation. And that goes back to my whole thing about just being me, and when I'm just me, I feel very small. I can only do so much, my body's only so big, legs only so long. I'm sure everyone's had that feeling. But when I lose that, then I'm just participating. And there's like a transmissional thing, which is, you know, we say flow. And it's not like I can do it. You know, it's a practice. It's a practice. And so then I started making work from that place, outside, outdoors. And at first, I went really extreme, and I was like, no content at all. There will only be relationship. So it was like completely improvised, and I was just setting very, very little, and I was like, okay, these people here, and we're just gonna practice. And that was good. I mean, things came out, but then slowly, you know, the choreographer, the ideas come back, and you start saying, oh no, I want to do this here, I want to do that there, okay. And then, so then, now I'm setting a lot of the material, actually. Most of the material. Depends on the artist, obviously, the person I'm working with, what their strengths are. But it's not just improvisation. I don't think that's necessary. You can practice this whatever. Doesn't matter whether it's set or not set. You know? There's an improvisational component, of course, because you have to be able to respond. And so now, basically, I go places, and I teach, and I get together a group of people who want to work, and we make something. And then I go somewhere else and do that. That's sort of the Project Loom. Infrastructure right now. Anyway, actually, I don't really want to talk much more. I hope you guys have some questions. Yeah? What did you see?
I already forgot.
There you go. Oh, the thing I was saying. Isn't that beautiful? Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. Maybe you've heard of that actually before. It's a textbook actually they use a lot from a quote. But I love that. It's exactly right. Seeing is forgetting the name of the thing one sees. Yeah? We could, yeah.
How do you choose your dancers when do you audition? Do you just work with who shows up? Do you invite people?
Well, it depends where. If I know people, then I invite If I don't know anybody, then I gotta trust, usually I have a friend or someone who knows my work who brings me to a place, and then they organize. And then I like to get as many people as possible outside. It's nice to have large numbers outside, especially because I like to do sort of scenic work. So it's like something happens in this place and another thing happens in this place. And often that helps because then people's time commitments can be very small, and I can make a 5-minute scene here and a 5-minute scene here. It doesn't mean you're in everything, but you're in something. And therefore you get a variety of people, and I can work better with schedules. But often, you know, recently it has been a lot of, okay, let's see who comes. And almost that's the improvisational process. It's like, you know, and that's amazing. That's amazing. Working with people that you just meet, who you have no idea what their abilities are or their personality is, and you look at the person, you look at the space, and you say, okay, this, and it's very intuitive. Like, I meet someone, okay, they need to go there. You know, like I just did this thing in Miami on the Metro Mover, and there was a scene with I have some video I can show you. There's this scene of a young mother working with her 2-year-old, and that was just working with a 2-year-old. I mean, those 2-hour rehearsals, I would be destroyed, and I was just watching and talking. You know, she had to go back in the car, and I mean, working with a 2-year-old, you're not setting anything. You're not in control. They're deciding everything, and they are mean. Anything you build up, they will destroy. Any idea you have, they'll do it one way and then just intentionally do it completely different the next. So I felt for her. That was a hard section. But sometimes so beautiful. Some moments there are just such magic in that. But I mean, that one especially really was like on the edge there between, what is this? Is this performance? I'm not even sure anymore. Personally, and it's not like I'm someone who's like, you know, it's got to be this way. But, you know, I'm conservative in my own way, I'm sure. Did I answer your question?
How many people were in the Metro?
22. 22 people altogether. That was the largest one I did. Aged between 2 and 67. Yeah, it's quite a lot. Yeah, I even did a salsa section. That was really fun. It was Miami. It was on Miami Avenue. It was perfect. It made sense. It was great. And you know what's fascinating about that? Another thing about dancing outside is, you know, I lived in New York for 8 years, so if you're in New York, you could wear a loincloth and have a giant, like, metal rod going through your cheek, in, like, both cheeks, and, like, no one would say anything. Nothing, they just, but if you lift your arm up, and, like, for more than 10 seconds, people are like, what's wrong with you? And that's crazy. That is so crazy. You are not allowed to investigate your body in public. And like, I would do a lot of stuff in parks there too. And there would be this crazy thing that would happen where like, I was trying to figure it out. People would be so weirded out by us. And they would always just want to name it. Oh, you're doing Tai Chi. Oh, you're doing yoga. Oh, you're doing calisthenics. Oh, you're doing, you know, sometimes they would get to dance, but it didn't really look like dance that they were used to, so they didn't usually get to dance. But I was trying to figure out what's so different, because there are always people doing the craziest, you know, like up and down the park, you know, doing these crazy, you know, to me, so much weirder than what we were doing, you know? And no one looked at them, and then one of the dancers goes, it's because they're not enjoying it. And she was right. You're not allowed to enjoy your body in public. It's weird. The second you show, like, it's too sensual. And that was really sad to read that realization, you know. Exercise is about pain. Stretching is about pain. You know, even if you see someone doing yoga too with too much joy, it's a little suspect. You know? She shouldn't be enjoying that much. lot about law, about the unspoken law when you work outside. There are so many rules in public space. So many. And that's fascinating too, to run against that. And the permitting thing, you know, that's fascinating. When you get permits, when you don't, when it's okay, when it's not, you know, what's more precious to people than other things. And also, like, you know, there was one point where I was feeling like I was making all my work for homeless people, because that was a big part of my audience. They were the ones who know those spaces too, because I would choose all these weird back spaces, like where people use the bathroom, because there's no bathroom, you know. But they know that world, they know that space well, and they're the only ones. No one else would go there. It's like behind the staircase to the train. Who goes there? Yeah.
As you travel to different countries, do you find that aversion to enjoying one's body in public, is it different culturally in different places? Is that more an American thing, or do you think that's just a human thing in this day and age, in your experience?
Well, definitely in Europe, there's a little bit more laissez-faire, I would say. Yeah, Germans are funny because there is that, like, if you jaywalk, wow, you will get seriously bad mouth. But then you can go in the, like, you know, city park and get naked and jump in the pond, and people walk by with their strollers and wave to you. Can you imagine me doing that in Central Park? I think they would call the police quickly. You wouldn't want to get in the water or anything. So yeah, so it's definitely, it's varied. But I think in general, that still holds true. I mean, even in, like, you know, places where they work out all the time outside, like China. I haven't been to China, but, you know, it's not like they're, it's still formal in a certain way. You know, I worked at the Queen's Botanical Garden, and they used to have all of these groups, all these Chinese community from Flushing would come work out in the park, you know, and they do all kinds of Tai Chi, they do line dancing, they do ribbon, swords, rings, they did, you know, all kinds of different exercises. And even, and the only one, like, the dancers sometimes would have some, you know, they put on the pop music and smile a little bit. That was nice. So yeah, it's different. It's definitely different. I mean, we are Puritans. You know? Okay. Yeah?
Do you ever decide to use music in the space where you're performing, and why?
Yes.
Like, why do you?
I love to use music. I wish I always had music. I wish I always had music. It's hard sometimes with first of all, I just know better dancers. So it's easier to get access to. Musicians, I know some when I know the place, but it can be harder. The one in Miami, I had a musician who was a saxophonist, and she was kind of like the Pied Piper. So what she did is she made transitions between all the pieces. So she would play, and then the scene would end. No, I'm sorry. She would play and stop playing. When she stopped playing, the scene would start. And when she started playing, the scene would end. And she'd ride on the train with everybody playing the saxophone, which worked beautifully. It was like, you were never waiting for anything. So, and I also worked a lot with my friend who's, was a Cunningham musician. His father was a Cunningham musician. And we did a lot of stuff with trying to do the same kind of thing about making the music from the space. So some of the music you heard in there was actually from contact mics on different structures in the space. You know, kind of like the same idea. Well, look at how crazy this bike rack sounds if you just mic it differently. And I did last thing I did in New York, I tried to do one of the, you know, iPhone things where you like upload the soundtrack and then everyone can listen to it on their smartphone. Their smartphones stream it directly, so we all press play at the same time and it's one track and everyone's kind of, you know, has the soundtrack on their phone. It was cool. There's a lot of potential there. But at the same time, part of me didn't like it because there was a certain exclusion there, you know? Everyone was sort of by themselves. But there was something cool then about the people who were there for the show and the people who weren't there for the show. You know, having this other experience. I don't know. Music's definitely very important to me. Yeah. What else? Yeah, sure.
In this day and age, you've had a lot of dance training yourself. What kind of training do you feel like is useful for maybe college age, pre-professional folks?
Well, definitely you want to be able to learn choreography. That is important. You know, I would say. You want to be able to pick up phrases for auditions, depending on the kind of work you want to do. That's important, actually. I'd say having a sense of rhythm. And in terms of training, that part I would say, figure out what it is, figure out how you dance and make that shine. And if there's a certain technique that helps you do that, then you should practice that technique more. That's what I would say, actually. But do all those other things too, like learn how to pick up a phrase and stuff too, but that doesn't mean you have to do it only one way. Do it in the way that is you, because it's very clear when someone's trying to dance in a way that is not them. And that's what people are looking for, I think. They're looking for people who really are clearly themselves in their dancing. And that's hard because we feel like we have to be one way. Maybe you guys don't feel like that, I don't know. I certainly felt like that. Still sometimes feel like that. Yeah. Figure out the thing that supports your dancing and study the hell out of it. Because it takes focus. Dedicated, continuous, focus. But that's like anything. It's not worth anything anyways. It's just like, here you go. Maybe that's good, huh? That's good.
Anything else? Well, thank you, Gabriel.
Cheers. Yeah. If you want to see more, you can go to projectblink.net. I got other videos, recent stuff. I didn't show that many videos because it's like, let's just talk about it. You can look at it later.